obviously, as a design industry representative here, I'm going to be stating the truism that user experience is the key to everything. But that's also what any startup you talk to here at Web Summit is going to say. Yeah, our key differentiator is user experience, right? Well, if it's the key differentiator of everybody, then it's nobody's differentiator. So the reality must be that some people are failing in their user experience, at least some of the time. So to put you guys on the spot, actually, I'd like to start by asking you about a user experience failure from your past in your company and how you identified it and how you fixed it. So, Jessica, you can start.
Okay, make me talk about the failures first. So for background, my company helps crowdsource medical diagnostic suggestions for patients. And in order to do that, we need patients to fill out a form on our site and explain their symptoms so that people from around the world can look at their symptoms and help them figure out what they might have. And since I've been designing for startup companies for years prior to designing for Crowdmed, I thought, well, nobody likes filling out forms, so I'm going to make this as short as possible and remove a lot of open-ended questions and have autocompletes and all that fun stuff that makes it a lot faster to get through this process. And it turns out patients did not appreciate that. I thought I was being helpful, but they ended up writing in and asking if they could add more information on how they felt about their experience or how they felt about the interpretation that they got from the doctors and all these things that you can't really collect on a standard intake form. So we added open-ended fields for them, big text areas, so they could fill out and complete their entire story, and they were happy about this. I thought, man, yeah, if you look at this form, it's very intimidating. No one's going to want to do all this work and fill all this out. But it turns out by limiting by preventing them from getting their open-ended questions, they didn't get the chance to feel like they were being heard. These patients had already tried the traditional medical system, so they had gone from doctor to doctor. And when they tell us and describe their experience with that system, they say they will go to a doctor, talk to him for 7 minutes, get a prescription and be sent on their way or be referred to another physician. And they felt like they were not being heard. And by trying to make this process easier or faster for the form, I was recreating the same experience that they had already gone through. Just trying to get what we believed was the most relevant information for their case, and then sending it out to the world to get answers for them, rather than really sitting there, letting them explain everything they had went to, which was a very therapeutic process for them. And having collected that information now, since we expanded the form, made it bigger, let patients put in their entire story, we even added a additional question asking them to describe their struggle with their condition. I was concerned that on the other side, the people solving these cases would look at all this data, be overwhelmed, and think, well, I don't know if I really have time to look into that case. And so I worked with a medical advisor to pick out the information from that case and surface it to the top of to the top of the patient's case that we would send to the medical detectives solving cases. And they started writing in and saying, we want more information. We don't want to have to click again to read all this text. And I thought, are you sure? Because there's pages of this stuff. You could be reading this for hours. But we tried it out. We said, you asked for it, we'll give it a shot. We put all that text all up on the page, the novel, the entire thing. And the medical detectives actually preferred that as well. And it's one thing to say you want that. It's a whole other thing to behave and actually continue reading the case. And they did. It turns out our longest cases, which were 100% longer than the shorter versions of the cases, increased the number of people who participated a lot. So much so that they were able to get solved in half the time of our short cases. And a part of that is because the patient gets to share so much of their story that the medical detectives get to read through that information and look for clues. Since they're trying to solve a puzzle, and this is really fun and interesting for them, they want as much information as possible to help get to that answer. So the mistake that I made was operating off of the assumptions that I had been using for working with startups prior to Crowdmed, making the assumption that the users I would be working with for Crowdmed would be similar to all the other users I had worked with previous to that. And the moral of the story is test your assumptions. You don't know that. You might think forms shouldn't be long. They should be simple. You should minimize the amount of information you take in from people. But you don't know that until you test it. And in my case, that was wrong.
Yeah, so proving the old adage that you are not your user,
Right.
and trying to second guess, specific users with UX heuristics is, a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah.
Omri, do you have a story quickly from your side?
Oh, we're good with failures. But the second thing that we're good with is identify them very quickly and change the product. So just to lay the ground, Medisafe is a medication management platform, cloud platform with apps that make sure that patients take their medications on time, and if they don't take it, we notify a designated family member, and we give them content that is explaining them about their condition, their disease, and their medications. Mm-hmm. So when we came out with Medisafe initially, we thought that it would be really cool that the patient can add his medications by scanning the barcode. Mm-hmm. Right? Sounds pretty cool thing to do. And in Israel, where I'm from, medications come in packed like Europe. Mm-hmm. But when we opened the app to the US, we've started getting some questions as to which barcode should I actually scan. And we were like, what which? Just scan the barcode. So we found out that there are, on the ugly orange boxes that they give medications in the US, there are 3 barcodes. One is the prescription barcode, the second one is the commercial barcode, and the third one is the drug identifier barcode. We needed this one. So that was a complete failure. And we said, well, what should we do about that? And we just removed the whole feature. Mm-hmm. It was such a core feature for us that our logo used to be a pill, that half of it is barcode. So, that was the one thing that we really betted on, but we've removed that. We added autocomplete on the medication name, and voila, it works. So, so very important to listen to consumers and what they want to see in the product.
Yeah, another example that, the high-tech answer is not necessarily the right answer for your user. So, and there's a tendency in healthcare to kind of sometimes frame user experience in terms of absence of failure, right? Because failure can be so dangerous if you're dealing with, life-critical applications. But, is there also room in the user experience of healthcare solutions for some of those qualities that we look for in consumer experiences, so surprise and delight and enjoyment of a healthcare experience?
Right, so the healthcare ecosystem used to be very paternalistic. So they think of the patient as a patient, but today the patient is not only a patient and does exactly what he's told to do. He's a consumer, and he makes his own decisions. And we need to start thinking about him with this word in mind and not the patient, the consumer. So as you're doing a consumer product like Medisafe does, surprise and delight becomes one of the most important things if you want to grow the business. And today we have hundreds of thousands of active users using our solution. So one of them, just to give a couple of examples, when you choose the medication name, it will show you the exact shape and pill of this specific pill that you're typing. So you're typing Nexium, you'll see an oval purple pill. Then we have this mega feature called the MedFriend, in which we connect family members. So if you don't take your meds, your family member gets notified and you get a text, which is something that really sets us apart from most of the other players in the ecosystem. But one thing that we've added lately that has struck a lot of waves is the ability to customize your sound of medication reminder, right? So that was a pretty cool thing. It came to me like every cool idea in the shower. And I said, well, wouldn't it be cool if my Jewish mom will donate her own voice and will remind me to take my meds? And then I sat with my team and we started developing that, and we came out with Yoda reminding you and Austin Powers. And actually this morning we got an email from a patient saying, well, I hate Obama that much that when he reminds me, I actually take my meds to shut him up. So that's type of the things that we're trying to do when we're doing consumer product.
Wow,
Well,
that's great.
Of course, I believe there's room for surprise. Most of our patients, when they get a diagnostic suggestion from the crowd that turns out to be right, they are very pleasantly surprised because they have been undiagnosed for years. One of our early successes was a patient who had been undiagnosed for 20 years. She had been seen a dozen doctors, and they have all told her that what she had doesn't have a name. They don't know what it is, but they can continue to treat her symptoms. And the condition she had involved extreme swelling in her legs, and she became bedridden, and every few years she would have to go in and get her legs drained, get the fluid from her legs drained, which, as you can imagine, is a terrible experience. So she did this for 20 years. She'd go in every few years, go through this process, all the while telling her doctors, look, maybe there's something new now, or here's some research I got online. And every single time, she said she felt she was brushed off or laughed at even. So when she found about us and posted her case online, and we connected her with a specialist in under 2 weeks for a condition she had been suffering with for 20 years, who could help her, and we got her a correct diagnostic suggestion, she was incredibly surprised, right? That's a completely different experience than what she went through for 20 years. So yeah, I think surprise in the healthcare system, although initially sounds very terrifying, can be a very wonderful thing and is necessary now to improve it.
Yeah, I think those examples are both really great in terms of understanding that delight is not some kind of magic dust that you sprinkle on top of your interface. It has to be very much about doing things which are delightful because they're useful and because they solve a problem that I have, and they do it in a way that treats me as a human being. And just that, which seems very simple, can make such a huge difference to people who are dealing with healthcare issues.
Definitely.
So you both talked about user feedback informing your decisions, and your two companies are at slightly different kind of stages in growth and development. I'd be interested in kind of hearing how you engage with your end users today to inform your product decisions moving forward.
Right.
You want me to do that one first?
Yeah, it's quick. So as we have today 2.5 million downloads and hundreds of thousands of active users, we get about 100 to 150 emails a day. Right? So we've built a methodology, and we have a full-time customer support. So if the patient, many people ask for the same thing, we hashtag them and we keep them, in a table, so that when we see something that people are requesting to have in the product, it's very easy to make product decisions when you have this big of an audience. So what we do is that we get these feedbacks, we have a product decisions based on that. One example would be that we had a way to track glucose levels inside the device, which was pretty cool. And then we got like 150 emails in a week asking us to add blood pressure readings inside. So we've added that, and and users, it's funny because you see like the herd is moving on to the next big thing that we thought that they might want now. So quantified way.
Jessica?
So I think it's very important to stay as close to the users as possible. So I'm copied on every support or every chat support message, every support email, every form survey response, and I do something that sounds really terrifying to a lot of designers, which is if someone writes in about being really unhappy about their experience, I will reach right back out to them and ask them how I can improve the experience for them specifically. And I will actually work with them. I will send them mock-ups of what I think is a proposed solution to the problem that they're having. And we'll work together for sometimes a few weeks until we come up with a solution that they can finally test out on the live site and see if it makes them happy. Because I want our patients to be happy. I know they've been suffering and going through a really terrible thing. I went through the same experience. I had an undiagnosed condition and I got bounced around. I don't like that experience. I want what we provide to be significantly better, exponentially better. And to do that, I need to talk to the people who are still going through this situation. So it can be scary to get sometimes really angry messages and get on the phone with them or write them right back and be like, I really appreciate you writing in. Thank you for taking the time to give me your feedback. And I want to improve this for you. And it turns out usually when they're that upset, they just want someone to talk to. They just want someone to hear them out. It's sometimes not even necessarily about the product. It just turned out that's what they happened to be on at the time. So when you actually reach out to them and get their feedback, and if they're willing to take that time to give you that feedback, that's huge from that. That's a really great thing for them too. That's kind of them to donate their time to help improve the experience for everyone. So I take that time, I talk to them, we work together, and it improves the whole website for everyone, and turns what could have potentially been a very angry user into one of our champions.
Mm-hmm. So the shift from designing for to designing with your users.
And directly with them.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. So if there was one thing that each of you wanted to leave with the audience in terms of what you've learned over the years and through the failures and the successes about user experience in healthcare, what would it be?
So first of all, to set apart design and user experience, right?
Uh-huh.
Because many people say, well, I've designed a really nice product, but it's not usable. This is not going to work. But if I need to talk about one thing, is listen, right? So the first year and a half, I used to answer every email of a patient myself. Actually, the funny thing is that we didn't want people to know that there are just two people in the company, and so we had one email with the name of a user support guy, and we both logged into that email and emailed our consumers. But we've listened to everything that they wanted inside a product and just iterated, sometimes 2 versions a week, sometimes once a week. Today we do 1 every 2 weeks, but just listen and iterate. This is, I think, the key to success in the healthcare industry and any industry, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So lessons I've learned: test your assumptions, and talk to your users, even the angriest ones. Don't be afraid to do it. Sometimes when you get on the phone with them or start actually having an exchange with them, they're quite pleasant people, and they just wanted to vent, get that off their chest, and once they had the opportunity to do that, they're willing to put in the time to help you improve the product that you're working on.
So I think that's fascinating, and as we work with a lot of larger organizations, they really struggle to follow through on those principles because of the way their companies are designed and organized. So the people who work in customer support and the people who work in product management and the people who work in design or in R&D don't talk to each other, don't share information, and don't have a common view of the user. And I think, for those of you who are working in early stage companies and have the opportunity to shape the company as you like, I think a key lesson here is shape your company in a way that it can be, that it is designed to be, and is baked in to be responsive to your users, so that you not only are able to listen to them, but when you listen to them, you're able to react and actually feed that back into the product.
100% agree.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.